At my wedding reception, my sister spilled wine on my gown, snatched the microphone, and started shouting. She thinks she's better than all of us. My mom rushed to her, whispering, "Sweetheart, it's okay." Weddings are emotional. I stayed silent, but that night I took action. By morning, my sister's screams woke the entire block. I always knew my sister had a thing about attention. Jenna and I are only a year apart, but we couldn't be more different. I was the planner, the achiever, the one with a career path before I could legally drink. She was the drifter, bouncing between hobbies, quitting jobs over bad vibes, dating losers, and constantly borrowing money from our parents and from me, especially me. I didn't mind at first. I figured she just needed time to find her place. I helped quietly. I covered her rent when she was short, paid off her phone bill more times than she probably realized, sent her grocery money through Venmo without asking for it back. But it always felt one-sided. If I got a new job, she'd call it lucky. If I bought a new car, she'd ask who paid for it. And when I got engaged to Connor, she didn't even pretend to be happy. She made a weird face when I showed her the ring and asked if it was real. Still, I invited her to be part of the wedding. I gave her a front row seat to the most beautiful day of my life. What a mistake. It happened during the reception. Everything had been going perfectly, maybe too perfectly. We were on our second round of drinks. The cake was about to be cut. People were laughing, dancing, genuinely happy. I remember looking around thinking, this is the best day of my life. Then Jenna walked up to me with a wine glass in her hand and a look I couldn't read. I thought she was going to say something nice or maybe apologize for showing up late and barely speaking to anyone. Instead, she threw the wine on my dress, not spilled through straight at my chest, a full glass of red wine on my white, custom-designed open-back silk gown. There was an audible gasp from somewhere nearby. I just stood there staring at her, not even understanding what was happening. She didn't look angry, she looked proud. And then she snatched the mic off the DJ table like it was all planned and screamed into it. She thinks she's better than all of us. People stopped dancing. Conversations died mid-sentence. My grandmother dropped her fork. The music cut off, and all I could hear was my heart pounding. My mom ran to her, grabbed her arm, and whispered something like, "Sweetheart, it's okay." Weddings are emotional, and that was it. I just stood there drenched in wine, humiliated in front of 200 people, and everyone tiptoed around her like she was the one who needed sympathy. Jenna walked out with my father behind her. Someone handed me a towel. Connor stayed by my side, furious but calm. We didn't yell, we didn't make a scene. We left the reception early. Quietly, I changed into a white jumpsuit I'd packed for the after-party, but I didn't feel like partying. We went back to the hotel suite and sat in silence for a long time. Eventually, Connor said we'd deal with it later, but I was already thinking ahead. That night, I didn't sleep. I opened my laptop and went through every transaction I'd ever made helping Jenna. I tallied it up. Rent, bills, car repairs, streaming subscriptions she used under my name, and I opened a new document. At the top, I typed one word, consequences, because this wasn't some petty outburst. This wasn't about wine or a wedding. This was years of jealousy finally spilling over in public. She had waited until the one day that wasn't about her to take the spotlight, and she wanted to humiliate me, not just in front of strangers, but in front of the people who loved me most. So yes, the next morning at exactly 5:42 a.m., her screams woke the block, as I had taken something back and she wasn't ready for what that felt like. By the time Jenna's screams tore through the neighborhood, I was already on my second cup of coffee. It was still dark outside, the kind of cold, quiet morning that makes the air feel heavier. The kind of morning where the world feels still until someone ruins it. She was outside in her pajamas, barefoot on the concrete, yelling like she'd been robbed. And in a way, I guess she had been. But not by a stranger, by me. Her purse, suitcase, phone, even her makeup bag, all gone. Everything had been piled in the backseat of her car, like she was preparing to sneak off early and disappear before dealing with what she'd done. As if she could dump wine on me at my own wedding, humiliate me in front of everyone I loved, and then quietly vanish, pretending to be the misunderstood victim. I wasn't about to let that happen. At 4:50 a.m., I parked across the street from my parents' place, quietly walked up to her car, and took everything from the back seat and the trunk. It was ridiculously easy. The door wasn't even locked. Classic Jenna, always too careless to think about consequences. I didn't steal anything. I just moved it all into my living room. I opened her bag not to pry, but to understand. And honestly, what I found said more than any apology ever could. There was a manila folder crammed with job applications for roles she clearly wasn't qualified for: marketing manager, event director, account executive. No internships, no recent experience, just a resume fluffed up with high school debate club, and a 3-month waitressing job she quit after one rude customer made her cry. There was also an envelope labeled Vegas Fund, stuffed with nearly $900 in cash. And then there was her phone, open, unlocked, full of messages that made my blood boil. Texts to her friends tearing me down, saying my life was too easy, that I bought my husband, that I only looked successful because I cheated my way through life. She called me a spoiled brat riding on rich girl luck. I sat there reading it all, no shock, no hurt, just finished. At 5:42 a.m., right on cue, the screaming started. Bolivia opened the door. "Are you insane?" Connor shifted in bed, but I told him to stay there. Let her yell. Let the neighbors peek through their blinds. Let her finish her little show. 5 minutes later, I opened the door. She barged in like she owned the place, already yelling, calling me a thief, saying I'd crossed a line, accusing me of kidnapping her belongings. She even threatened to call the police. I didn't react. I pulled out a chair for her and stayed silent. For once, she actually sat down. Maybe the quiet unsettled her, or maybe it was the way I looked at her, not angry, just done. I reached behind me, took out the bank statements I'd highlighted the night before, and slid them across the table. She blinked, staring at them like they were written in a foreign language. I'd added everything up: rent money, grocery transfers, utility payments, the time I covered her car's alternator, the birthday gift card she used on Uber Eats, every single expense. $17,432. She didn't say a word, just kept turning the pages, her mouth slightly open. I told her I wanted it paid back. She let out a short, fake laugh and said I was being ridiculous, that I was trying to destroy her life over a dress. That's when I told her the rest. I was done helping her. No more bills, no more emergencies, no more loans, no more more rescues, no more pretending she was just having a hard time. I told her I wasn't her safety net anymore. Then I gave her things back, everything. The purse, the phone, even the Vegas envelope. But first, I took a photo of the cash and made it clear that if she blew it on a trip before getting a job, I'd send the picture to our parents. She left without saying another word. I didn't hear from her for 6 days. Then, like clockwork, she flipped the story. She went straight to our parents and told them I was cold and heartless, that I'd punished her for being emotional, that I'd threatened her and treated her like trash. At first, I could tell my mom wasn't sure who to believe. But 2 days later, they showed up at my place and they came alone. My parents arrived unannounced early Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home, still in sweats, hair tied up, no makeup on. When I saw their car pull into the driveway, for a moment I thought Jenna might be with them. She was. It was just my mom carrying a pastry box and my dad wearing that familiar look he gets when he has something serious to say but doesn't want to be the one to start it. They came in and sat down carefully, like they were afraid of stepping wrong. It was quiet for a moment. We made small talk about the wedding photos that had arrived the day before. My mom complimented the flowers. My dad asked if Connor was home. I told them he was at the gym. They both nodded like that was the answer they expected. Then my mom said it. She said she thought I'd done the right thing, no softening it, no walking it back, no conditions, just said it plainly and let it sit in the air. I didn't respond, I just watched them. She told me Jenna had been blowing up their phones all week, first crying, then laying on the guilt, then accusing them of taking sides. According to Jenna, I'd attacked her, embarrassed her, and stolen from her. My mom said she listened for a while, then finally asked, "What exactly did Olivia do that you didn't bring on yourself?" Jenna hung up. That's when my parents decided they were done too. The next morning, they sat Jenna down and told her directly that she needed to stop using people. No more living off others. No more expecting everyone else to carry her while she waited for life to sort itself out. My dad said she didn't take it well. She yelled, slammed a door, and locked herself in her room for hours. They left her there and drove straight to see me. My dad told me they'd made a mistake, really, a lot of mistakes, trying to keep the peace by giving Jenna whatever she wanted. They thought they were helping her feel included. What they were actually doing was enabling her. Then he said something I didn't expect. He told me he remembered Jenna pulling the same kinds of stunts when we were kids. How she'd ruined my graduation party by announcing a breakup with some guy none of us even knew. How she accidentally lost the dog we got when I was 15, the one I clearly loved more than she ever did. Back then, he said, they brushed it off as teenage behavior. It was. My mom looked exhausted. She said she wished she'd recognized it sooner, but Jenna always knew how to twist the story, how to make herself sound like the one who'd been wronged. Then my dad asked me something unexpected. Did I want them to talk to her again? I shook my head. I'd already done enough. Then I asked the question I'd been holding on to. Why didn't either of you ever speak up? When she took shots at me, when she lied, when she made me feel like I owed her everything just because I was doing well, they didn't really answer. They just looked at me, both of them clearly ashamed. Before they left, my mom told me something Jenna had said during one of her rants. It's not fair. Olivia got everything, the house, the job, the fiancé. I'm 5 years older and I have nothing. No one ever looked at me the way they look at her. That's when it clicked. It wasn't just jealousy, it was resentment. Like my life was the one she felt she was supposed to have. Somewhere along the way, she convinced herself I didn't deserve it either. That night, I sent her one last message. This is the last time I clean up after you. If you want a life, go build one. She didn't respond. A week later, my mom told me Jenna had packed up her things and moved out. She said she needed distance and a fresh start. She found a roommate through Craigslist and moved into a tiny studio with paper-thin walls, no air conditioning, and street-only parking. 3 days after settling in, she landed her first job in almost 2 years. I didn't expect to hear from Jenna anytime soon. Once she moved out, I assumed she'd go quiet for a while, sink into whatever version of rock bottom she'd chosen. Maybe she'd last a month before trying to work her way back into my parents' house. Maybe less, but 10 days later I got a text from an unfamiliar number. Do you still have my birth certificate? That was it. No hello, no drama, just the question, almost too calm. I didn't reply. I checked a drawer, found it, and dropped it off at my parents' place that night. I didn't explain. They didn't ask. The next day, my mom called to tell me Jenna had started working. She'd taken a retail job at a clothing store in a strip mall, the kind of place she used to make fun of. Folding jeans, watching kids knock over stacks of shirts, wearing a name tag lanyard, clocking in and out. She was earning just over minimum wage and she hated it. Mom said Jenna stopped by after her first week to borrow a heating pad because her back was hurting. She was worn out and sunburned from walking to work since her car's AC had broken again, and she couldn't afford the repair. A part of me wanted to laugh, but a bigger part felt nothing at all, just neutral. She stayed quiet for a while after that. Then out of nowhere, she started asking my mom small, practical questions. How to get mildew off tile, how long cooked rice lasts in the fridge. Whether vinegar actually works as a cleaner. No complaining, no fishing for sympathy, just questions. Then came the part that caught all of us off guard. My dad, who hadn't spoken to Jenna since she stormed out of my parents' house, drove over to her apartment one afternoon with a second-hand toolkit and a case of bottled water. She hadn't asked for help. He just decided to show up and fix a shelf she'd broken while trying to assemble a cheap Walmart dresser. She thanked him without the usual forced gratitude or guilt-laced tone, just a simple, genuine thank you, that was it. It felt strange. The next surprise came a few weeks later. I was sitting in a downtown cafe with an old coworker when I spotted her. Jenna was alone, standing in line. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, wearing a polo with the store's name stitched on it. A library book was tucked under her arm, not her phone, not a vape, a book. I watched her order a coffee and a muffin, then sit at a small corner table. No audience, no performative laughter, just her, drinking coffee and reading like an actual adult. Like someone who'd stopped trying to put on a show and was simply existing. She didn't notice me. I didn't say a word. That night around 11 p.m. I got a voicemail from her, not a text, not a call, a voicemail. She said she wasn't reaching out to apologize because she knew I probably didn't want to hear it. She also said she wasn't asking for anything. No help, no forgiveness, no second chances. She just said she was trying to change, that she finally understood, and that she was ashamed of who she'd been. It hurt more than she expected. Then she said something I never thought I'd hear from her. I spent years being angry at you for winning. But I never once stopped to ask myself why I wasn't even playing the game. She said maybe life wasn't meant to be a constant comparison. That she was exhausted from treating people like milestones instead of actual human beings. I wasn't sure how to feel. I listened to the voicemail once, then again, and finally saved it. I didn't reply, but I kept thinking about how strange it felt to watch her finally step into her own life, instead of trying to step into mine. A week later, my mom told me Jenna had been filling out job applications at night after work, realistic ones. Entry-level assistant roles, receptionist positions, shipping and inventory jobs. The kinds of jobs she once thought were beneath her. She'd even applied using a new email address, one that didn't have the word princess in it. She paid her phone bill on time. And for the first time since she was 19, she wasn't asking anyone to help her do it. I was fully prepared to never talk to Jenna again. It wasn't some dramatic promise, I was just finished. Whatever changes she was making, she could make them without me involved. That wasn't bitterness, it was peace. For the first time in years, my life wasn't built around waiting for her next crisis. So when my mom suddenly texted me, "Your sister just got offered a full-time admin job, benefits and all," I didn't know what to say. I read it twice, locked my phone and let it sit. I'd been hearing little updates. Jenna keeping her retail job, paying her own bills, walking to work every day in shoes she used to complain were ugly. But this felt different. A real full-time admin role. 9 to 5, business casual, benefits, real life. I didn't reply right away. Later that night, I opened the message again and typed one word, "Where?" My mom answered with a photo. It was Jenna standing in front of a company lobby wall.